Hello, Washington Middle School families. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and learn about what's happening in eighth grade social studies this year. My name is Eli Normoyle, and I wanted to introduce myself in this video and also tell you about this class. So, this is my 19th year teaching in the Olympia School District. It's my second year here at Washington Middle School. I grew up around here. I went to Tumwater High School and then attended Western Washington University in Bellingham. And after I graduated from there, moved back to Olympia and earned a master's in teaching from the Evergreen State College. My family here in Olympia, we live in Tumwater. My wife works for the state. She works for L&I. We have four kids, elementary school daughter in fourth grade at Peter G. Schmidt, and then three high school kids. So we are definitely experiencing the same stress that many of you are in terms of having all our kids here learning from home, and some of those challenges. So I can definitely relate to the experience that most of our parents are going through. And just on that note, I do want to say we have really been impressed, or at least I can speak for myself, been really impressed with the students at Washington and how much effort they are making to be successful in this unconventional school environment that we have this year. So let's talk a little bit about this class. Eighth grade social studies is focused on the United States. We spend the early part of the year typically learning U.S. geography. We kind of had an abbreviated version of that this year. I had students study the 50 states and they had a quiz on the locations of all 50 states. And now we're moving into history. So we start with the first Americans, different Native American tribes throughout North America, and how they adapted to their environment and built their culture over the many centuries before European contact. The next portion of the history class will cover explorers and colonization, and then we'll get into the Revolutionary War time period, followed by westward expansion, the Civil War, and Reconstruction. So those are our main history topics this year. Throughout the year, we also focus on current events. And this year being a presidential election, we've had a lot of discussion and learning about that process and what's happening with the presidential election. The other major topic of eighth grade social studies is the U.S. government. So we generally get into these topics more deeply around January. So we will learn about different types of governments, and then spend a lot of time going fairly deep into the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the other amendments that have been added to the Constitution. We talk a lot about democratic ideals and constitutional principles and how our country has strived through many centuries or decades to try and live up to those ideals and principles, and the importance of citizenship in a democracy. So all of those topics fit under that category of U.S. government. In terms of curriculum, our main curriculum that we will use in this class is the History Alive, the United States program that's provided by the Olympia School District as our eighth grade social studies curriculum. Students access that through Schoology. There's an online program where they will have a lot of reading and questions and different activities that they have to do about the chapters that we'll cover in there. Normally in the building, we use a supplemental textbook for civics to learn about government, and that's called We the People. Because of distance learning and because we don't know when we will be able to be back in the building, we may or may not use that as much as we have in the past, but we will see when we get to towards the end of first semester. iCivics is an online program that has a lot of games and resources for teachers and students. We've used it already this year. The students had some games that they played to learn about the presidential election. In terms of current events, Junior Scholastic is something we've used quite a bit in the past, which is a monthly current events magazine that's put out for kids. And then CNN 10, which is a daily program that covers news and world events. And in the past, I've used the Stanford History Education Group resources quite often, but not sure how that might change with the distance learning this year. Grades. So, in terms of grades, I've tried to keep the grading similar to what we've used in the past, even though things are different in the distance learning format. Um, the main difference is that students can receive an A, B, a C, or an incomplete. So there aren't any failing grades, just incompletes that may require students to do additional work to earn a grade in that class. So in terms of Skyward, you will see three grading categories: daily assignments, projects, and tests. Daily assignments are the shorter things that we do, including participation in discussion posts and other things like that. Larger assignments would be um, in the projects category, along with essays or longer written assignments. And then tests are obviously assessments of student learning. Students won't have tests too often, but we will have a couple, 2 to 3 tests, I would say, per quarter. So they'll have plenty of notice to when that's coming and what that's going to look like in this distance learning format. The categories are not weighted. So essentially, their grade is based on total points and the percentage. Obviously, tests and projects will have a higher point value, and students will generally have a rubric that will explain what they need to do to earn the points for that project. On my Schoology page, at the top of the page, you will see it has links to send me an email and for kids to join the Zoom meetings. There are folders for them to access the work in Schoology. Oftentimes, that work is turned in through Schoology as well. But there are times, for example, when we use the TCI online program, that the students will be turning their work in through the TCI classroom. Participation expectations. So we have Zoom meetings scheduled for periods 1, 2, and 3 on Mondays and Thursdays, and periods 4, 5, and 6 on Tuesdays and Fridays. Earlier in the year, we went over these Zoom expectations with all of the eighth grade students, but essentially, um, we really need them to be engaged and participate, to be there on time, to be respectful in terms of their behavior. And we have told them that we would like their camera to be on, but that may not be possible in all situations. And if their camera is off, it's important to us that they have an appropriate profile picture in Zoom, preferably of themselves, like a school photo or something like that. All right. So, in terms of how you can help your student, I think in this distance learning format, there are a couple things I would like to just emphasize on here. One would be time management. So, trying to help your kids have a schedule, be able to manage the work that's being asked of them. And then, um, to whatever level you might be able to, help them in terms of technology support at home. Um, the big one for me, though, I think would be discussion. So, in class, it's something that we would do frequently in social studies is talk about things that are going on, news, world events, perspectives on government, history, historical points of view, things like that. And the more that you could engage in discussions like that at home, that the more that's going to help kids be more interested and motivated and aware of what's going on around them. Eighth grade is really a time that kids are able to have those conversations that are a little bit more mature than they probably were able to in their younger years. And then obviously checking Skyward is an important thing to do to be helpful at home. As far as communication, I have been sending weekly Skyward emails to students and families, sometimes just to students, sometimes just to families, and sometimes to both. If you haven't been receiving those, please check your Skyward information to make sure that your email address is where you would like that to be going. And the best way to reach me would be sending me an email, and I will hopefully respond to that quickly. And if we need to schedule a Zoom meeting or a phone call, we can certainly do that as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this and to support your kids as they go through eighth grade. Thank you.